Welcome, everyone, to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host.
And I'm Missy.
And we are still following Willow. Unfortunately, we have some bad news to talk about, which is Deadline reported this morning that the series Willow has been canceled in its current form.
I have an important question before we get started, Marie-Claire.
Yes.
Is there a limit on the language I'm allowed to use? Do I have a quota of F-bombs? What's our situation here?
Typically have swears in the podcast just because it gets flagged on,
of course,
certain sites and stuff like that. But yeah, we're both genuinely upset. If you follow us on Twitter, we were literally losing our minds all day.
Yeah, not thrilled. Not thrilled at all. Nope. I think we will.
Yeah.
When I feel it necessary, I will try to default to the Good Place version, like holy forking shirt balls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because
why? I feel like we're laughing because we've literally been so upset all day.
Oh my God. I'm definitely leaning much farther into anger than sadness. And I don't know, maybe that's just a post-Tross reaction. And listen, they're not the same thing, and we'll go into how they're not the same thing, but there's still significant disappointment. But mostly I just feel angry. I feel angry because it hurts to feel this seen and understood and respected and reflected back in your media just to have it yanked away. Again.
Yeah.
Again.
Willow is so significantly important to us from a cultural perspective. It shows love in the forefront.
Mm-hmm. Love is the greatest power in the universe.
Absolutely. And it also shows healing of trauma live on the screen through both the symbolic, metaphorical, mythical ways, but also genuinely in the script and in the text. And that's so significant. It showed a variety of masculinity, and it showed a variety of femininity too. And it showed that, most importantly, it was okay to be true to yourself.
Yes.
Which is something that we absolutely desperately need in our story, because one thing that I always come back to when I think about story and its effect from especially a mythical lens is something that Joey Salloway talks about. Joey Salloway was the writer-creator of Transparent, and they talk about how art is the propaganda of the self, and how when you have it and it's out there, it helps you understand that person's perspective and story. You can never truthfully live in somebody else's skin and understand their whole everything, but art helps us walk in each other's shoes for a while and understand that we all live and breathe and love and need. And that's what John Kasdan gave us with this amazing series. That has been cut short, right? I'm very happy we have the first season, but there's more story to tell. And that's what's so heartbreaking for so many of us.
Well, and it centered queer love.
Yep.
And it did it with joy
and grace
and
messiness sometimes too.
And messiness. But also within a fairy tale context where we were led to understand that this would be a happily ever after for this couple. For a couple that almost never on screen do we see a happily ever after for a queer couple. And many people in real life feel that they don't get the happily ever after.
Yeah.
That they want, that they deserve, that they desire in the deepest part of their hearts.
Queer Disney princesses. We got queer Disney princesses.
We got that. And now it's gone. And that just, it really hurts. And we'll get into this as well, but like, we joked about how Graydon, the sad, angry frown prince, that we add him to our collection of sad, angry frown princes because we have so many, but God, how many of them never make it out of the underworld?
Yeah.
Like most of them. And so we're talking about,
we need to do a jailbreak.
Yeah, for real. Bust them all out because seriously, and we'll get into all of this, but what we have talked about again and again and again is Ben Solo, Graydon Haster, the Darkling from Shadow and Bone, like all of these characters, why do they exist? These are the symbolic representation of the wounded masculine in our culture. And it needs to be retrieved, healed, loved, made whole. And we're not doing that. And this speaks to the depth of that wound in our culture.
It's absolutely the symptom of the patriarchal culture that we live under. Bell Hooks would talk about how, Bell Hooks being the foremost feminist on this subject, and about men and love and masculinity. And she would talk about how like patriarchal culture mutilates the emotions of young men in our society. And through our art, the collective unconsciousness is telling us this. It's telling us that all of these men this wounded masculine is getting stuck in an irretrievable place. Absolutely. It is, it is breaking us as a society to keep on essentially saying to boys, your only worth is through sacrifice. Yeah. And you're not allowed to be connected to your emotions.
And if you think that we're being a little too dramatic about this and that it's just stories and like, listen, on some level, yes, we have to detach from it enough to understand that it is just stories because we can't let it completely wreck our mental health. That's not healthy. So like on some level, it will be healthy to take a step back. Yes, I agree with that. However, the reason that we feel as strongly as we do about this and why we try to express why this sort of aborted story makes us feel this way is because you can see the effects of this in our culture. The reason that wounded masculine that has not yet been healed is a recurring theme in our culture is because right now, because of the gains in rights for women and queer people, heteropatriarchy is pinging back very strong.
Yeah.
It is hitting back hard. You can see it in every part of our lives right now. And it's hurting everyone, men included. So it is the visible symptom of what is happening in our lives. And the stories can't fix that, but the stories can reveal the path. Just like we talked about, the finale reveals the path back for a character like Eric.
And why this story felt so good to many of us, literally joy. Like I talk about this on the podcast with Star Wars a lot, is that joy is the compass. Yes. It is the compass to
the light,
understanding what is missing in your life and in the stories that you love and in where you should spend your time. Joy brought us community within this story, right? We created the questies and we had so much fun and invigoration and energy because of the joy the story brought us, right? Yeah. And the joy was telling us that there is something that we need in our lives. And story is like a dream of a better world, right? It is the propaganda of the self that we could potentially dream a better world exists within our fiction. Yes. And how else do you get there but by making it first a reality in a story and then hoping to make it a reality in real life.
Yeah. Yeah. I sent you this quote just the other day, and it's utterly creepy to me how it really fits this whole situation and exactly what we're talking about. It's from Carl Jung, and it says, even the best attempts at explanation are more or less only successful translations into another metaphor. Indeed, language itself is only a metaphor. The most we can do is to dream the myth onwards and give it a modern dress. And whatever explanation or interpretation does to it, we do to our own souls as well, with corresponding results for our own well-being. So the point here is you dream the myth onwards.
Mm-hmm.
You take the story and you imagine how it goes, how it continues, how it ends. You put yourself into it, the modern dress, and what your interpretation, explanation, expression of that story does externally, it does to you. So if you imagine, if you dream a healing story, a healing myth, you are healing yourself, and the people that hear your story have the opportunity to heal themselves because they dream that myth with you.
One of the most fascinating programs that I ever read a study on was actually taking place in Texas, where instead of people being given hard sentences in prison, they were actually given an opportunity to attend basically a book club. And they didn't have to go to jail. They were directly on probation, and they had to attend this daily book club where they were reading books and discussing what was in the books. And what they found was the professor or the teacher that was working with them would give them books that were directly related to the circumstances that they had found themselves in and how characters could find their way out of it. And what they found was that there was almost zero repeat offenders after this. Because story is healing. These are people who literally committed crimes. And instead of punishing them, we treated them like people who needed to have a second chance through story and fiction. Isn't that interesting? And that's us too. We experience story. And I want to say, what we got with Willow season 1, I'm still going to call it that. I don't know.
And that is what it is. It was always meant to be season 1. So, hey, it's season 1.
Season 1 is healing. It gives us so much. It is valuable on its own. I am forever grateful it exists for people who are like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't try it. Well, you missed out on something that was unbelievably healing.
It's so true. It's so true. And fun. I mean, it was when we say this show was joy, it really, really was. It was just fun and so much emphasis on love and laughter. It was funny. It was just a good time. And you could tell that in the cast and crew, they had a blast. They had so much fun working on it. They've told us personally that they had fun working on it. They loved it. And even today, they're all in the comments of each other's social media posts going, I love you, buddy. I love you too. This was such an extraordinary, lightning in a bottle maybe, but it was amazing. And I'm so deeply disappointed and angry, but I don't regret it. I don't regret watching it. I don't regret, talking about it for an insane number of hours with you.
It's so good.
I don't regret any of that. I really don't. I'm joyful. My most negative emotion is I just don't know what it will take
to change the system.
Right. I don't know what it will take to break this pattern. I don't, because it's a very deeply ingrained pattern. And listen, I know all of the practical reasons why this probably happened. People have pointed out, well, listen, there's probably going to be a writer's strike soon. And that we saw what happened last time. So the last time there was a writer's strike, it was, what were the big shows out at the time? Lost, Heroes, Battlestar Galactica. Like they all got affected by that. And you can see it. You can go back and watch them now and you can see where the writer's strike happened in those stories and how it affected those. So like, it's significant. So like, you know, I'm sure that some things that were kind of on the cusp, you know, were very much affected by the fact that that's being anticipated. And listen, impact to the story aside, I support the unions. I am absolutely like, please, like people need to
be paid better. They need a better
and,
pay structure for streaming because
absolutely
right now it is terrible for everyone.
Yeah, it's really bad. And arguably it's part of the reason why this kind of stuff keeps happening is because shows are, because of the crappy contracts,
incentivized to cancel after one season.
Right, exactly. So they're cheaper in the first, I think for 2 seasons right now is the way the contracts work. And then by the 3rd season, like the pay jumps for everyone involved. And so like, yes, a lot of them cancel 1st or 2nd season. So, you know, that's what happens. And so yeah, it's bad for everyone. It's obviously bad for the people who aren't getting paid what they deserve. And then it's also bad for the stories because the stories aren't getting told. But that also brings us to the other thing I wanted to discuss, which is just the streaming model in general, being very broken and preventing us from having intact stories.
Yeah. I do want to compare it to Asian media across the board.
Please.
Both you and I have become fans of K-dramas, so Korean dramas, Japan's dramas, or even comedies, romantic comedies.
Yeah.
Taiwanese dramas, Thai dramas, C dramas, Chinese dramas.
Yeah.
Across the board. Like literally all of these models function significantly better than the North American model.
Yep.
There are exceptions because sometimes they do seasons to try and get the North American markets. And those of us in North America are like, we don't want that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. But for the most part, shows are greenlit and filmed all at once. If the season is 40 episodes, that is greenlit and filmed. The whole show is filmed at once. I've watched 67 episodes of a drama from China, and it was a historical drama, and it was amazing, and it was worth it the whole way.
Yeah,
that's like the equivalent of like, depending on the lengths of the seasons in North America, that's like 4 to 5 seasons.
Yeah, well, and I mean they vary in length. I mean, you find a lot that are 16 episodes, then there's some that are 30 some odd episodes, and then, like you said, you have one.
It depends on the country. Yeah, like in Korea, vary. It's 16 or 20 is usually the norm. Sometimes more. Sometimes they'll do specials, but also the British model is more like this too, right? They'll do. They do more seasons, but they'll only do like 3 episodes or 4 episodes a season, depending on what it is, right? But they're more like movies.
Yeah.
Depending on the things. Yeah.
Like almost like a limited series in a lot of ways. But yeah, so the Asian model and so the things that work about it are this. So one is that because that is how they work in general, everyone's writing stories that are intended to start and finish in a single season.
And have a complete story.
Yeah, they're just written that way. They're written with an ending, and not just any ending. A lot of times these endings are quite final.
Yeah.
Like there really arguably would be no way to continue the story for a lot of these.
Yeah.
And so that's, like it's clearly you're done. But not only that, if some aspect of the show is popular and does well, it's not like, oh no, we can't capitalize on that. A lot of times they take the elements that succeeded and then they not spin off, that's the wrong way to put it, but they build a show around the successful elements. So like if 2 stars were extremely popular in one series, they will put those 2 stars into another series. And all the fans go and watch that one.
Sort of like Anna Armas and Chris Evans from Knives Out being put into a movie together, and all of the fans of Knives Out who liked that chemistry between those two actors are like, oh, we're going to watch that romantic comedy.
100%. It's exactly like
Ghosted,
that.
By the way. That's coming out.
Yeah, Ghosted. That's it. It looks
Ghosted.
great. I can't wait to see it. I'm so glad that I at least temporarily have Apple TV so I can watch it. Anyway, but no, really, like that's going to be fun. But that's a great example where it's like, it doesn't like just, I think there's this mistaken idea. There's a few, concepts right now that are sort of upholding the whole streaming model in North America that are just patently false. I think one of the most significant ones is that the only way to generate buzz for your show is a cliffhanger ending.
Yeah.
And I think that has been very clearly demonstrated false.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing evidence that cliffhanger endings help generate buzz. If anything, cliffhanger endings are frequently at this point, because we burn so often, they scare people off. People hear that something ends on a cliffhanger and they're like, well, I'm not watching until I find out, whether it's been renewed or whatever. And then of course it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Well, no one's watching. So now it's like, oh no, well, I guess we have to cancel it because no one wants to see it. I don't know. There's so many other things. It
would be revolutionary for more, I guess it's just, what am I trying to say here? I guess it's very costly for people to be like, okay, I want to have all of these things done. Netflix was kind of doing it for a little while where they were like renewing the whole season or multiple seasons, but then releasing it in like parts.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird that way, which I guess is fine. But literally there was a drama that was released where it was released every single day.
Yeah.
For a month.
Yeah.
30 episodes and basically everybody was on board and watching it all at the same time for an entire month. And if you missed an episode, you caught up the next day for 2 episodes or whatever, or you binged it every single day for a month.
Yeah.
And like billions of people watch these dramas.
Yeah. Well, and it's just, but here, okay, so this is the other factor that comes into play is when shows that have not ended are canceled.
Yeah.
You have, for the most part, destroyed their rewatchability. Not entirely. Yeah. There are times that I can go back and watch something that didn't end just because it's that good. I think Willow will be one of those things for me because
I think so. Yeah.
Season 1 is very good and I'm willing to go watch season 1 again. But that said, it definitely damages its rewatchability for a large chunk of the audience. And in many cases, some people will simply never watch it at all. They will never pick it up because they never give it a chance. Yeah. This is like Cursed. I'm sorry, but the
Cursed the show.
Cursed the show.
Yeah.
The deja vu with Cursed on Netflix is killing me because that was more painful because they dragged it out for over a year because it was during the early part of the pandemic. But it was just like, it's not a perfect show, but it's a good show. It's a solid fantasy show.
It had a lot of potential too, which is the hard.
It did. It had a lot of potential.
A hard part. And it was a really awesome retelling of Arthurian myth, but with like femme lead, and
it was femme focused. It had a diverse cast. It had sapphic nuns. It had, it had
sapphic nuns,
so many great things in it. And anyway, but the point is, a lot of people will not bother to watch that show because it was canceled. Its rewatchability, or indeed watchability, full stop, has pretty much been neutered by the fact that it wasn't renewed. And there's so many things like that. And so what happens when a huge chunk of your catalog becomes unfinished,
unwatchable
shows?
Yeah, it becomes this
what value are you really offering?
You're not offering anything.
No.
That's why they keep on picking up shows from like 10 years ago that have been in syndication and bringing them, like Doogie Howser MD was just announced on Disney Plus, which I love Doogie Howser, but Doogie Howser wouldn't have made it past one season in the streaming.
That's the other point.
In the streaming model.
That's the other point, like, well, they're expecting everything to be a smash hit season 1. I'm sorry, the vast majorities of the most beloved shows of all time have a really rough season 1. Like, a really rough season 1. Oh my God, there's just so many of them. This is funny, but like, what is it? The Ninth Doctor, which was like series 1 of Doctor Who with, Christopher Eccleston.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I'm sorry, that's a really hard season to watch. Sorry to everyone out there that loves it, but that's like, it's like got a couple good episodes, but mostly like, I don't know, the gas mask episode is good, but otherwise everything is like, ooh, it's hard to watch. And so many shows are like that. So many shows like the first season is just not great. And so it's just, I don't understand the expectations that shows have to find their footing immediately, even for the ones that do well in the first season. A lot of times it's like the pilots are often weak. Like that's very common. Like
weak pilots or like, it kind pilots. Of flounders.
Yeah.
A little bit, or it's just still trying to find the chemistry between the actors. And sometimes it can take seasons for chemistry between actors. I keep on thinking about Friends, like how awkward Friends was in the first season, but really like, the chemistry built with familiarity between the cast. And like we already had that chemistry with Willow. It just needed another season to like really cement the audience and and its place in the collective unconscious.
Yeah. And to bring it back to Star Wars, Clone Wars, I find hard to watch until at least mid-season 3.
Yeah.
At least, and
it takes a bit.
That's like 22 episodes a season. And it's like, like you're sitting through a lot waiting for that to pick up. So like, it's just so weird to me because their metrics are not based in reality. They're not based in reality around how people interact with their entertainment. It's not based in just how people even live their lives. Like sometimes, like if I don't watch a show the second that it drops, it's not because I'm not interested or it's not a good show. I have a life. I have other things I'm doing. I don't always have time.
Allows you to come back to it. So it's really hard to get a good picture of like, what is the actual audience? Willow grew with us being loud about it.
That's right. All the questies were shouting about it.
Episode 4, we got like a huge bump in the watchability and everything like that for a ton of people. And they were like, oh, wait, I see what's happening. And sometimes that's what it takes for a story is like, oh, I see it now. I see what is that spark, And
I see the vision.
I see it. I see the light. Yeah. I also think that there's this misunderstanding of the importance of resonant media. Like it's really important that people see themselves transform on screen as characters.
Yes.
Like it's really significant. I've talked about this a lot, but when you see somebody go into the underworld, metaphorically, and go through a dark period of time, find that thing that was missing in the darkness, find joy again, and then make their way back to the community, that gives us hope as the person watching. And also we experience a mini transformation and union of our missing piece that this person also experienced as a character on screen within ourselves. How can you replace that if the media is resonating with people? I don't know. I guess it's just nonstop reality TV show now. Is that what we're saying? Reality TV shows. I don't know.
I mean, so the other factor in this is going into given just the realities of production, what's the best way to deliver a fantasy story? And this is where I want to get into a hypothetical of, I think there's a possibility that a Willow sequel movie would have been more successful than a Willow sequel show. Yeah. Because not only are there all the issues that we've just discussed with regard to streaming and shows and how it's just it can be really difficult for them to pick up the audience that for some reason the bean counters want to see. But also just fantasy is one of the most expensive genres to film.
Mm-hmm.
And the only ones that seem to be able to pull it off and not get canceled are ones that have name recognition. Hence, Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, and House of the Dragon, which is, Game of Thrones, which is one of the biggest smash hits of all time. So the point is that, these two, they're going to be fine because they have that name recognition. But Willow was always a cult hit. It was, yes, it had a built-in audience that loved it, but it was comparatively a small audience, not to mention the fact that, at the time they're revisiting it, it was outdated and there wasn't really anything that had pulled it back into the cultural consciousness at the time that they decided to do this. So it was just
it did
a labor
feel
of love.
A little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's like
right?
Oh, we're doing Willow now. Okay, that's cool.
Willow,
yeah, from, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And so it's which is why you end up with people who had no idea that this was going to be about Elora Danan, which should be obvious from the film that the next story would have to focus on Elora Danan. But there are people that were genuinely surprised by that. And a lot of that just has to do with they're looking at it through nostalgia and everything else, and so I think you could make an argument that, maybe a movie would have been better. But what my point in saying this is that fantasy is that heightened world where you can explore exactly what you're talking about. Because in fantasy, you can literally go to the underworld.
Yeah.
Great, is it an actual underworld?
It's textual.
It is that is where he is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you can tell this story in a way that will resonate with people because of that.
And the symbols will be stronger.
Right. They will instinctively understand it.
Yeah.
So it's the most resonant story, unfortunately, being told in the most expensive way possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Over 8 episodes.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of filming and a lot of time during COVID. Absolutely. I get the economics of this.
And it's beautiful. They held it to a high standard, which is awesome.
And full orchestra, amazing.
Incredible.
We get to keep this amazing thing. Please release it on physical media so I can own it forever.
Yes, please. Just give us a Blu-ray.
Release it.
Come on.
Give it on physical media. Bob, you can do it. Please.
Yeah. Bob, you owe us this, all right?
Bob, you owe us the Blu-ray.
You do.
With the behind-the-scenes special and John Kasdan commentary, please.
Yes, exactly, please.
I'll sign up for that. I'll pay for 3.
Yes, I need the full commentary.
The whole thing, right? But this also comes back to this burns in my head, which is why is the cancellation worded in the specific way that it's worded in every single news article, which is, it is canceled for now.
For now.
Has a possibility to return and continue the story. Literally every single news article, not just the ones that were quoting Dateline, but I think that EW got a clarification quote that said that possibility to continue the story later on. It's such a weird hedging, isn't it?
Well, okay, but that's why I feel like I do think that the impending strikes have something to do with this.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of any other reason why they would hedge like that.
Absolutely hedge like that. And okay, so it's hedged. And B, this makes no sense right now because I'm very emotionally drained. But okay, the possibility of it returning as a movie with Val Kilmer and Ron Howard directing.
That would be amazing. I would love that.
It has the 2 names that it would take in the marketing to actually pull people in.
Yes.
That sucks. But
yep,
could be what is, the glimmer of hope in my eyes. That's it.
There are plenty of other examples of shows that were canceled before their time and then concluded in a film. one of the most famous, of course, is Firefly was concluded with Serenity. And, you can argue about whether it's a good conclusion or not. but they made an effort to end the story.
Yeah.
And
it is a little bit easier to get the movie funding because the box office
because it's a one and done.
It's done, and the box office pays for stuff, and
and especially if they're saying, well, you have a built-in audience, so go ahead, right? Yeah. So it's possible. I don't know. I mean, there's any number of possibilities in terms of whether and when and how it comes back. I certainly
just why the caveat asterisk.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be strung along. I really don't.
No, I don't.
Like I said, with Cursed, it was brutal. It was like a year and a half before they actually confirmed.
I mean, in some ways, like, yes, pull the cord now, right?
Yeah.
But if it does come back, that's amazing. And I don't
That would be incredible. I would love it. I don't want to disappoint people.
I'm just frustrated that it's not very clear in the articles that there is a hedging. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not saying I want them to kill all hope now. I think everyone understands this. Everyone who's listening understands this. We're tired.
Yeah.
We're very tired. And being strung along in any way does not feel good. Even if eventually
you don't understand how much we love this show.
Yeah, well, we love this show. And in spite of everything, we continue to love Star Wars. God knows why.
What?
Really, and all these other things that we just keep investing our whole souls into because reality is kind of brutal. So we like fantasy and sci-fi.
We like escapism.
And
oh my god,
oh my god,
delirious.
I'm just so. I'm so incredibly irritated, so annoyed, and tired.
I'm like the sad one, and you're the angry one.
I'm so pissed. I'm just like son of a why? Like Bob, why? Like Bob, you already did this to us once. Why? Yes. Come on, man.
Come on, Bob.
Some slack.
I'm going to vote against you at the shareholder meeting.
Yes.
The AGM.
Exactly. No, Bob.
I have one share just so I can attend it.
Just oh my gosh. No more.
The things that suck so much is that when Bob was announced to come back, I literally said, uh-oh.
Oh, no. Yeah, exactly.
Because everyone was like, yeah, he's better on the parks. I'm like, yes, but he's not. If they're bringing back a familiar face, it's to do cuts.
Yeah. And listen, folks, what was the last thing he did before he left the last time? It was force everybody to make trusts, even though there was not enough time.
Yeah.
Listen, none of us really know what happened behind the scenes, but I personally find the story that he simply refused to budge the release date to be the most easy to believe. That makes perfect sense to me that that's what happened. And I think that everything fell out from that. I think there was
decisions that were made that they just didn't have enough time to, because there have been amazing movies that have been pulled together behind the scenes when they had no idea what they were doing with enough time. Casablanca. That's always my go-to. Amazing movie. They had no idea what they were doing.
Mm-hmm. It's not impossible, but generally speaking, especially in that instance where it was just, and this should lead us naturally to the conversation about the importance of endings.
Yes.
And what an ending needs to be, why we need endings to our stories, all of that kind of stuff. But the thing about Tross specifically is that, it was the ending to a 9-part saga spanning multiple generations, and with every theme that had been developed over all of that time.
And it had all been kind of woven together successfully up to the end of TLJ.
Up to that point. Mm-hmm.
And even the complementary media, for the most part, was all singing the same story.
Yeah, it was all honestly there were a few retcons here and there little ones, but on the big things, the big thematic questions. Everything was pretty consistent. And then it just all fell apart right at the end. And that is entirely the result of not enough planning. Entirely the result of not enough planning. And like everyone knows that for whatever reason, they decided to fly by the seat of their pants with the sequel trilogy. And that kind of worked for 2 movies and then absolutely did not work for the ending because it was the ending of an entire saga. And they really screwed the pooch. And so. And
you can have a messy middle and a successful ending and people will love it. You can have a messy beginning. Literally, we're just talking about all shows used to have messy beginnings all the time and be okay.
Bad. Your point about the messy
Breaking
middle.
Bad.
Yeah, but I was literally just thinking about the first 3 pirate movies, the Pirates of the Caribbean, the original, like, because there was like a trilogy before they decided to make a bunch of other stuff. And so those first 3 movies, like, if you think of
the second one is
the second one is so bad.
It's
like,
so bad.
It has some good things in it. Like I can speak to the things that I think that are good, but like generally speaking, 1 is really, really strong. 3 is really fun. It's a good ending.
And has a good ending.
Like, what?
What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, but no one cares because it's like, you know what? You ended it well. So it doesn't matter that like you did weird stuff in the second movie. So like, and so that's the thing is that like people will forgive so much if you end a story well.
Yeah. Endings really do matter. Yeah. And showing catharsis, if you mean to show catharsis, is really, really important. So if your story is going to end sad, catharsis for everybody, catharsis for all. And if your story is supposed to end happy with hope and like the new tomorrow and the miraculous ending, happy kissy ending.
Yep.
It's still owed to us.
Yeah. You got to do that. And it's like, and in terms of threads, it's not so much plot threads as thematic threads that you need to pay off, because ultimately what you're doing with an ending, and the reason that endings are important, is endings are ultimately going to tell you, but what was this story really about? Why did you tell me this story? And that's what I will learn from the ending, is I will understand if it's done well. Why did you tell me this story? Why did I go in this journey with you?
Why did I pay attention for 9 movies?
Right, exactly. If it's literally to rewatch the first scene from the first movie, then I don't really understand why we did this.
Yeah,
right.
This feels like not what you were trying to say.
Right. But that's why
exactly.
Endings are important, and that's why having all.
What was the moral of this story, or why? Yeah. What do we learn from this? What do we take home from us? Which is, of course, the elixir of storytelling.
Yes, it is. So the ending is the delivery of the elixir to the audience. That is what it is. And so when you have all of these stories which have not ended, which have simply been cut short,
they're all stuck in the underworld, Missy.
They're all stuck in the underworld. And
they're all villain origin stories.
And you can make an argument that no story really ends, and it's just the storyteller's decision where to end it. And that's great, but the point is it's still ended. It's even if it ends in different places depending on who's telling it. So what was the movie? Oh, I'm forgetting what it was called. It was came out a couple years last year. I think it was Hugh Jackman and Rebecca Ferguson. A lot of people didn't like it very much. I liked it. It wasn't amazing, but it was okay. But it was like an Orpheus and Eurydice story, and they specifically.
Wait, Hugh Jackman?
Yeah. You didn't see Reminiscence?
No, I didn't. No, sorry.
It kind of came in. I know that like I think the writer or the director was like mentored by Rian Johnson. So it was like, that was kind of how it came on my radar. Anyway, in fairness, a lot of people didn't like it. I did. But the point is that it's an Orpheus and Eurydice story, and there's a scene in it where they're actually talking about Orpheus and Eurydice. So this is like the movie acknowledging that this is what it is. It is. And she asks, well, is it a happy story or a sad story? And he says, depends where you end it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a fascinating concept. And then, of course, at the end, it becomes a point of like, the real ending of the story is sad, but when he reminisces about it, he chooses to end the story where it is happy.
Happy.
So the point again about endings is it's not about like, oh, well, no story really ever ends or no myth really ends or whatever. That's not the point. The point is the stories that we tell one another, and therefore the decisions the storyteller makes about where to end that story matter, because that tells you, again, why they told that story and what they want you to take away from it.
I mean, thank you, Michelle R., for showing us that Graydon was still alive, but in the underworld.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because now we know. And if we had ended, if this had been canceled without that, I think I would have never been happy ever again.
I would have been so devastated. If we didn't have that ending with Graydon and Warmalora, I would have been wrecked.
Yeah. It was the right choice.
It would have been Tross 2.0. It really would.
I know. It would have broken us. Me and you personally just broken us.
Not have handled it.
Oh my God. But okay, what I was trying to say is this is something I have struggled with Star Wars for a really long time, because I think I made a joke. I've made this joke a lot, but at some point you will see the conception, birth, and death of every character you've ever loved. That's literally what they're giving us in Star Wars, which is, hey, you want to know this? Hey, we'll tell you. Here you go. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, I often say, oh, you want that character back? Why? Do you want them to suffer? What do you have against that character? Right? Because you only send a character on a journey if they need to transform. If they're happy, leave them alone. Leave them in
leave them there.
Leave them in the known world. Like, they're just happy. Leave them there, right? The happily ever after means, hey, the kingdom was fixed. Yay, you don't have to go and revisit them. They've learned their lessons.
Yeah.
Right? And that's always been kind of my struggle with the new Star Wars storytelling method, which is, no, let's tell everybody suffering again. Yeah, let's make them suffer again.
It requires us to go back and wreck any happily ever afters that may have occurred.
I mean, that happened with Han and Leia,
exactly.
Right? Like they ended up wrecking their happily ever after in so many ways to tell the story of the sequels. I do still think that the story of the sequels is important, what ended up being produced, but it's important in the same way we talked about the wounded masculine being stuck in the underworld. That's where we start, which is Han and Leia, the heroes of the former generation, have their child, the product of that former generation, the wounded masculine, being stuck as Kylo Ren. Important story to tell.
Yeah.
Okay. But why Willow is different is because he knew what he was going to tell. John Kasdan knew what he was going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. He knew why. And this comes back to the huge theme throughout the entire season, which was consumption and Tantalos.
Tantalos and
consuming the offspring and the future. And the reason why this show was so incredibly resonant and why it had so much potential as a complete story was because it was going to show that is not okay.
Yeah.
That you cannot sacrifice
the children,
the next generation. And that's such an important story to tell. I mean, think of all of these stories that are so popular right now. Encanto, Turning Red, Coco, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Healing the wound between the older generation and the younger generation.
Yes. And they were doing that here too, because Willow and Sorsha were coming to the realization that they had not left behind a better world for their children.
They had created one that was broken.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they were going to make amends for that while also helping guide those children to heal that world.
Yeah.
And that's what was happening. And that's such an important story to tell.
Absolutely.
And there's a reason that we're telling that story over and over and over right now, why you're seeing it a lot in all of this media.
Because there's a disconnect between the values that have been upheld with the dominator culture. So upheld the dominator culture, like white supremacy, imperialism, patriarchy, and capitalism, and how our generation and the generations younger than us are being left behind because of this dominator culture, and how they can't get out of it because those 4 pillars are holding it up and continuously wounding the children. That's the consumption theme of Willow.
Yes. And I mean, this is a little bit too dark of a turn, but like I see this in my children having to do active shooter drills in school. We've created a world full of predators.
Yep.
Who are coming for my children. I'm part of that too. We have not protected them.
Yep.
We have not built a better world. We have not dismantled these systems that are predatory, that hurt them.
Yeah. All of the systems that I mentioned in the dominator culture are predatory. They use and consume and mutilate. Like that's they control. They prop each other up in that way. And school shooters and the drills associated with it are just the reaction to it. It's a symptom, not the cause.
Right. But the point is, we know that this is the story that John Kasdan was telling, because he talks about the opposite case, which is his parents creating a womb, a cocoon of safety for him.
Yep.
In which he was able to heal and thrive.
Yep.
When he was sick as a child. And so that's his elixir. He had that. He has the
elixir to deliver.
Yes. Yeah. He's got it. He can give it to us. He was prepared to deliver. I will
follow him anywhere.
John
my captain.
We're ready.
My captain.
We'll take it.
Little Walt Whitman.
That's what he has for us.
Oh my gosh. Makes me want to rewatch
him
Solo.
Tell his story. I know. Just let him tell his stories, man. Let the man cook.
Yeah, let the man cook. He's so smart.
Alora was cooking for us.
I know. And like, okay, so enough utter depression.
Yeah, sorry guys.
Where do we go from here? I literally like this. I'm having like Tross flashbacks. Not that this is anywhere near.
It's not the same.
It's not like. It was harder than I went into like full crisis management mode and like, it was hard. I created my Discord because of the Rise of Skywalker to give people a safe space to feel things. So first and foremost, I'll say what I said then. It's still true. Grief over characters, grief over story is completely natural. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a character that you have emotionally invested in and seen them grow and seen them transform, and a good friend that you have seen grow and transform. The stories are equally as important to your brain. So never feel shame about grieving the loss of this story. I'm happy to report all of these characters are still alive and can live on in art in a variety of ways. You have been given the joy of Willow. Willow is joyous. You know what this feels like. You've experienced it. You've felt the elixir go into you. That is the joy that you are feeling from Willow. You yourself can create art, can create story that gives you that joy to give to other people. And you now know how to discern the stories that give you that joy. Become picky as hell.
Yes. Yes. You deserve only the best stories.
Only the best joy.
Yes.
And I think that's important because we as audience members continue to need to be demanding about the stories that we love. Be loud on the internet when you love a story.
Yes. Yes. I mean, as much as I know that we all, it can be cathartic to complain when something disappoints you. That's okay. That's fine. But ultimately, it's being loud about the things that you love that is going to mean we get more of it. That's how you get more of it, is you yell about how much you love it, and you let it inspire you to find more things to love and to create things for people to love as well. Like create something you want to see, create, like honestly, like
create the story. Yeah.
Write your fix it fic, because you know what? You never know. One day that'll get published and then turned into a movie, and like it's already happening, people. So do it.
It certainly is a more viable stream than it was even 5 years ago.
Well, and even if it doesn't happen again, like your act of creation has value, whether anyone else consumes it or not.
Yep.
This is really, really important. Let's say you write something and maybe one other person ever reads it or consumes it in any way, but you wrote it. And in doing that, like you created something, you took something from yourself, your own elixir, and you put it out there, and you healed something in yourself, because again, that's what Carl Jung says that it does. When you dream the myth onward, you are going to have those effects happening in your own soul.
And you're giving that spark to somebody else to have that opportunity too. And when you experience that apotheosis, which is that you finally reached your lowest point, you've reconnected with that missing piece of yourself, you're going to experience that energy that is the gift of the elixir.
Yeah.
And you will want to create or do something for others. That's also important. Just being with others, doing things for others is also part of the joy creation. And that's why this fandom was so electric. Being a questie was electric because we were all doing things together.
Yeah. And there's so many, like, I loved all of the people like translating panacodic.
Yeah.
Or narcotic. Sorry, I can't say it right. But anyway,
narcotic,
like, yeah. So, people doing that was really fun. I've really enjoyed a lot of the fan art. Recently, I know, and I'm so sorry, I just don't have it right in front of me right this minute, but, one of our questies has been creating consistently a lot of beautiful Grey Laura drawings that I'm very, very obsessed with. And I hope they don't stop, because they're just wonderful and I love them so much. And like, just so much beautiful artwork and energy just in general in the fandom, even when it's not Willow focused. It's still created that energy. So it's been awesome. But that said, I do want to make sure that we don't finish without mentioning stories that we feel get it right, that might help to fill this hole for people if they were really loving what Willow did and are disappointed that
ones with
we
complete
don't know
endings.
How will end. Yeah. So stories that have complete endings and similar themes to Willow. I want to talk about a few of those. So
okay. Where do we want to start?
So let's start
Western media, or
it does. I don't think it matters. I don't think we have to necessarily localize it. I think it's more, let's start with per theme. Like I'd like to talk, for instance, let's talk about hidden goddess stories that end in successful ways. You mentioned one before we started recording.
Yeah. So, one that it might surprise you is, Queen's Gambit, which is on Netflix. It was a limited run series, 10 episodes. It is absolutely a hidden goddess story. I did a video on it. It's really good. Go watch my video, go watch the show, and then see what she does. She goes through essentially Maiden Mother Crone, which is like a simplified version of it. But and her hair changes and her hats change to match. Yep. It's really cool.
It's so satisfying. It's
very satisfying. And the symbolism is layered thick in Queen's Gambit. And it's just a very, very good story. In fact, I might go rewatch it because I know my kiddo really loved it. So
it's an easy rewatch too, which is so, like some things can be a real investment.
It's 10 episodes.
That's easy. One that's like,
Are we going to go maybe easiest to hardest investment? Is that
maybe? So I've got another one, and I don't know if this counts as. I feel like it counts as hidden goddess. It does. You know what? I'm going to say this does count as hidden goddess.
Okay.
But this is one that kind of like came and went without many people noticing it. But it's another limited series. It's only 6 episodes actually. It's called Keep Breathing, and it's on Netflix.
I've never seen it.
So Ty did a video about this.
I'm writing it down.
please go watch it. It's 6 episodes is so easy. You can just boom, boom, in and out. Actually, Martha, I didn't know you hadn't seen this. You're kind of going to lose your mind a little bit. I'm excited to hear what you think because this is right up your alley.
God, I'm excited. Okay.
It's super, super Women Who Run with the Wolves, like intensely so. Yeah.
Turning Red.
Yes. Turning Red. Another one. Absolutely. Absolutely. So like, yeah. So if this is kind of your jam, these are some that you can do. So one that's a longer, two that are longer time investments, but that also have hidden goddess in them is Love Between Fairy and Devil,
which is on Netflix.
It
is a C drama, but it's entirely worth it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so good. It like, I'm shocked. It's as good as it is. It's amazing. So it's really good. The
costuming is amazing. The mythical elements are amazing. Again, it's in Chinese and of course subtitles, but it is so valuable.
I would argue that even if you don't watch any other Chinese dramas, you would still enjoy this because it's just that good. So highly recommended.
It's like baby's first genre, which is fantasy Chinese. So it's mythological. It's set in a fantasy mythological world, etc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Costumes, wigs.
Yeah.
Cool powers. It's fun.
Yeah. It can be helpful to know a little bit about Chinese mythology, but you don't have to. You can go in totally blind and be fine.
I did a video series.
You've done 2.
I've done 2.
Yeah,
I need to finish the 3rd. And if
if
Nat doesn't want to do the 3rd with me, you're doing it with me.
Okay. But I hope Nat does because she knows more than I do.
Okay. But
yes,
we've done 2 on it, but there is an intro to genre. This is on my other, What the Fiction YouTube channel. It actually has pictures and a PowerPoint presentation. So
I know,
totally
right?
worth
so
it.
Thorough. And you guys like giggling absolutely hysterically when he like grabs her and like kisses her like all aggressively. Oh my God, it's so good. Sorry. I love that.
Yeah, we giggle a lot.
Good stuff. It's good stuff. But it's a great show and I recommend it. And then the other one, and this is going to kind of lead us into some of the other themes that I think people really enjoy from Willow is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, also on Netflix. So hilariously, Netflix, despite the fact that it has a reputation of like canceling the most stuff, it also has a lot of really good things on it.
Yeah. But She-Ra was absolutely healing for me after the Rise of Skywalker. Hidden goddess, enemies to lovers, queer.
Yep. Yeah. So a lot of the things that people enjoyed from Willow are in She-Ra, and they're very, very, very well done. It's very, very satisfying and cathartic. And to your point about it being healing after Tross, so one of the things that we've talked about frequently is that Star Wars struggles because it features a lot of planet level destruction and no planet level creation. Yeah, She-Ra gets that right. She-Ra heals the planet.
It heals it. Yeah,
it does. It's awesome. It's so great. And it also is very explicitly anti-patriarchal in terms, especially around what we said about the whole, like, oh, your values only and how you can sacrifice yourself. There's literally a line in this, which is that
it is your value
you are not
is more
only what you can give to others.
Yeah.
You deserve happiness too. And then she, like minor spoilers, of course, but like we're telling you it's a happy ending, but like she wins because of love and not because she's willing to sacrifice herself.
Yeah.
Like,
so important.
It's so good. So like it is an incredibly powerful statement on every level. Queer love is all over it. The whole thing, center, up front and center, like basically every couple. It's awesome. So good. Just
my whole family loved it.
It's like, my kids occasionally are just like, let's rewatch She-Ra. And I'm like, yes, me too.
And it's so pretty and joyful. Like
it's beautiful. It's fun.
It is Willow.
It is very, very Willow.
The same joy. Like it is absolutely the same joy.
They're incredibly similar in a lot of ways, like different stories, but like the fundamentals are really, really similar. And so it's a good time.
The elixir is the same. Same elixir. Yeah. Same Gouderade.
And the healing of the relationship between parents and children is all there too.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so
and like
good.
the former generation and the expectations of the former generation and how they are trying to put their, way of doing things on the younger generation. Yep. And yeah, it's so good.
It's very ill. And just even the concept of like, we've inherited our parents' war. Like that's a big thing in there. And eventually the kids are like, what, but why are we tolerating this?
Yeah.
Like, why do we have to live this way? Maybe there's a better way. So it's great. I cannot recommend it enough. If you haven't seen it, see it. If you've seen it, go watch it again because it will make you feel much better. But like, these are things that like, they have hidden goddess. Yes. Because Shira is also hidden goddess. Speaking of which, Shira is also Sleeping Beauty, which I really, really love because, again,
she's hidden and she wakes up and things like that. Yeah. And then it also has the thematic elements of where we thought the story was going with Graydon and Allura, with the person stuck in the underworld who is also somebody that you care about and love. With of course Catra and Allura.
And Catra's a great character because it's not like when they sometimes have a villainous love interest and in order to make sure that you don't hate them, they like water them down. Catra she's bad things.
She's very bad.
She does very bad things. Like, so yeah, like so the fact that they take that character and redeem her and make them end game, and it's fantastic. It's so good. It's just super satisfying. Like at this point, I just want to go watch it the second that we get off this call because like it's so good. But yeah, so those are some good ones. What are there others we can think of?
Love and Redemption, which is another C drama. That I highly recommend. Ashes of Love, which is another C drama, hidden goddess. Not related to this storytelling, but highly mythical in its storytelling. And I've never seen a person watch it that hasn't loved it. Crash Landing on You.
God, it's so good.
It is. There's a different mythic folklore motif happening within it. It's skeleton woman on both sides, but also like enemies to lovers in a way. And it's glorious. And I watched it with my husband and he loved it. So watch it with your spouse. It's a Korean drama. It's on Netflix. Yeah.
And I hope that you and I are able to discuss that one someday because I'd love to dive into it in detail because it's got so many good things going on. So I thought if people are interested in books, I think the main one to me that stands out, again, these same themes, is the Winter Night trilogy by Catherine Arden. So it's Bear and the Nightingale, The Girl in the Tower, and Winter of the Witch are the books. It is hidden goddess. She turns out to be this very powerful witch. And also the retrieval of the villainous lover from the underworld. He's literally banished and forgets about her, and she has to go find him and remind him. She literally has to travel through like midnight, and midnight is a place that takes her like days or like an interminable period to get through or whatever in order to retrieve her lost husband. It's pretty fantastic. So anyway, yes, big fan. Those are great books. I highly recommend. And they're also like, and this is just a personal thing, but like gorgeous prose. Like sometimes when you read books, it's like, okay, well, the story is good, but it's like, I don't know about the way it's written. Like those are pretty books. So if that's your thing, do it. You'll enjoy it. They're very good.
Queer sapphic fantasy Tiger's Daughter, Kay Arsenault Riviera. Highly recommend. It's
awesome.
It's like she had created her entire backstory for her character for a D&D campaign and then was like, wait, this is a book.
That's brilliant. Seriously. People should do that. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
That's so good. Yeah. So lots of great stuff. So I think, and we'll try to think of others, but the point is there are lots of excellent stories that have these same themes, these same types of characters, and have satisfying endings. Like they can and do end well. Like we have been given. Yes, it's possible. We have been given the elixir in other places. So, do enjoy.
Yeah. And I want to say, like, it's still okay to love this story. It's still okay to rewatch it. It's still okay to be part of this community because we love each other and we've bonded over this story. And do your art. As Carrie Fisher said, take your broken heart and make art.
Yes, do it.
This is why I podcast, to process literally everything in my brain.
I know. Well, I appreciate you
God,
so much.
I still had like so many people on my list that I wanted to talk to. I wanted to talk to somebody about
we still could.
I mean, I still wanna, like, the costumes.
Yeah, please.
John Kasdan, please come on my show.
Come on, John, you won't regret it.
I love you, John. No, I mean, I'm serious. Whatever you do next, you get it. So I will follow.
Yeah, we're there. We're coming. We're coming for the ride.
We've become John Kasdan stans.
Oh, no.
It's much easier than being an Adam Driver stan. Trust me.
Oh, my God.
That was a little end of the episode humor. All right. Missy, you'll be back, though, to talk about Star Wars as hard as it is. We have things to talk about.
We have things to discuss.
We have lots of things to discuss. We've been putting off Power, Myth, and Symbolism just because I've been so busy with Star Wars. So much Star Wars content. But we do want to talk about House of Atreus as an overall mythical theme in Star Wars and larger media. I think that would be interesting to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. We'll be back for
consumption.
More consumption
because consumption. Yeah. And I'm starting to plan out more Power, Myth, and Symbolism episodes for later on this year, of course. So that'll be good too. Yeah.
So excited. Yay.
Yep. All right. I love you all. This has been one of the best experiences of my life talking about the show.
It's been fun,
really
guys.
great. Yeah. All right. Cheers.